This evening, first up, no more lines, no more waiting. President Ali says Ghana's online passport service could be ready within a month. Tonight, how applying for a passport from anywhere in the world is about to become a reality. Then throw your garbage on the street and face the consequences. The Attorney General says stronger anti-littering laws are coming, with tougher penalties and more aggressive enforcement. Ghana's patience has run out. Plus, a digital registry for every driver's offenses, convictions, and license. The government's new road safety database will give multiple agencies real-time access and put repeat offenders firmly in the crosshairs. Meanwhile, a small cargo plane loses contact over Ghana's interior. The pilot, a seasoned Nicaraguan aviator, was the only one on board. Tonight, a search and rescue operation is racing against time in a remote region. And Iran's grip on the Strait of Hormuz is reshaping global shipping, but on the other side of the world, Panama Canal is seeing a surprise surge in traffic. Tonight, how one war is redrawing the map of world trade. Those stories and more coming up. Stay with us. Welcome to this broadcast of Channel 2's Headline News Update for April 10th, 2026. I'm Bibi Bacchus. Thank you for joining us. First up, gone are the days of long passport lines. Guyana is going digital. Guyanese citizens may soon be able to apply for a passport without setting foot in an office. The government of Guyana is on the verge of launching an online passport service, with President Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali confirming this week that the system could be ready within a month. Speaking to members of the media on Wednesday, President Ali revealed that final arrangements, including biometric processing, are currently being wrapped up. The online passport platform will be linked to the country's national payment system and emerging e-wallet services, signaling a bold step toward a fully connected digital government. This initiative is part of a sweeping national digital transformation agenda that has already delivered upgrades in immigration processing and online government service delivery.
There are a number of things that has to be completed. You know, we have Guyanese all over the world. So right now, if you want a visa for some countries, you have to do this biometrics at an agency. So they are now completing that relationship. And I would say within a month, we should be closer to that.
Guyanese living abroad have long faced significant hurdles when trying to renew or obtain travel documents, and this rollout will also benefit them. Faster processing time and the convenience of applying from anywhere in the world are among the key benefits expected from the rollout. With the finishing touches now being applied, Ghana's online passport service looks set to become one of the most tangible signs yet of the country's rapid digital evolution. In other news, the government is introducing stricter anti-littering legislation, with Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Anil Nandlal announcing that legislative amendments are being finalized to tackle what he called the indiscriminate and unacceptable dumping of refuse. Speaking in a recent social media address, Minister Nandlal raised alarm over the persistent disposal of garbage on city streets, into drainage canals, and across public spaces, warning that the behavior poses a serious threat to public health and national well-being. The Attorney General noted that we cannot continue to tolerate this level of disregard for our environment and public health. The proposed amendments will carry significantly stronger penalties for offenders, and authorities are also preparing to take a more aggressive enforcement approach. The government is also exploring mechanisms to ensure that violators are consistently identified and brought to justice. Minister Nandalal, however, was clear that the initiative goes beyond punishment. He called on Guyanese citizens to adopt more responsible habits and to take collective pride and ownership in keeping the country clean, framing the problem as both a legal issue and a deeper cultural challenge. The legislative push also comes amid growing concerns about the impact of litter on the country's drainage infrastructure. In urban areas, garbage-clogged canals have been identified as a contributing factor to flooding, adding urgency to the government's drive for reform. Officials say the measures form part of a broader national effort to raise environmental standards, protect public health, and foster a cleaner, safer Guyana. Moving on, the government is moving to strengthen road safety enforcement by creating a centralized digital registry under its Safe Country initiative led by President Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali. The Attorney General's Chambers will spearhead the project in collaboration with the Ministry of Home Affairs, the Ministry of Public Service and Governance Efficiency, and the Ghana Police Force, along with the National Data Management Authority.
This measure will allow for greater and more efficient enforcement of our road traffic legislative framework, specifically the diligent enforcement of penalties such as the demerit point system that authorizes the suspension and revocation of driver's license for different categories of offenses such as inter alia, drunken driving, and motor manslaughter.
The new system will compile critical data on road users, including driver licensing records, traffic offenses, charges, and convictions. Authorities say the registry will enable stricter enforcement of existing laws, particularly for repeated offenders. Officials explain that individuals convicted multiple times for offenses such as drunk driving could face license suspension or revocation in accordance with the law.
So a person who is convicted, for example, for a second time or third time for a drunken driving related offense can now, in keeping with the law, have his or her license either suspended or revoked, as the case may be, and as the law provides.
Key agencies, including the Judiciary, the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Ghana Prison Service, the Probation Department, and the Ghana Revenue Authority, will have digital access to the platform, allowing for more coordinated and efficient oversight. The initiative is expected to modernize traffic law enforcement and improve accountability on Ghana's roadways. Stick around when we return. Sweetness with a purpose. First Son's lemonade sale squeezes out $10 million for animals. And family fights for answers in teen's suspicious death.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny? I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Welcome back. Fears are mounting after a missing aircraft was located deep within dense forests with no immediate signs of life at the crash site. Authorities confirmed that the wreckage of an air service limited aircraft has been spotted in a remote area along the Madia-Imbabadai route. The plane is Cessna 208, was being piloted by Ryder Castillo, a Nicaraguan national, and the sole occupant on board. According to the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, the aircraft departed Madia around 8:10 a.m. and was expected to land in Imbabadai by 8:40. However, it failed to report its arrival, triggering an emergency response shortly after contact was lost. Search efforts intensified amid reports of heavy rainfalls and reduced visibility in the area at the time of the flight. The suspected crash site was eventually identified by passing aircraft including planes operated by Trans-Guyana Airways. The Ghana Defense Force has since deployed special forces and medical teams to the location where search and recovery operations are now underway. Officials say the situation remains active, with details being verified on the ground. Investigators are expected to determine the circumstances surrounding the crash as recovery efforts continue. Authorities have also urged pilots operating in the region to remain alert and report any unusual sightings as the investigation unfolds. Moving on, a grieving family's search for answers is intensifying as troubling questions emerge over the death of 15-year-old Arif Aziz at a popular Essequibo Coast location. Relatives of the young man are calling for an independent and thorough investigation, arguing that evidence surrounding his reported drowning on April 6th at the Hot and Cold Lake in Underneming points to more than a tragic accident. In a detailed Facebook post by family members Arif Ali, the family highlighted major inconsistencies between eyewitness accounts and physical findings. While one individual claimed Arif fell from a jet ski and did not resurface, relatives say the extent of his injuries, including multiple fractures and severe head trauma, suggests a violent impact. A post-mortem confirmed drowning as the cause of death, but concluded it resulted from multiple injuries sustained to the right side of his body. The family also raised concerns about the position of the jet skis at the scene, noting discrepancies between where the incident allegedly occurred and where the vessels were later found. Serious allegations have been levied by the family against the Ghana Police Force, claiming that the investigation was incomplete and poorly conducted. Relatives say key statements were not taken, that officers provided conflicting information, and that critical evidence, such as the full autopsy report, was missing from the file being prepared for legal review. Amid growing public concern, the family is demanding that the case be transferred to the Major Crimes Unit and that the conduct of investigators be formally examined as they continue to seek justice and accountability. In other news, a simple cup of lemonade has poured out millions in compassion, capturing the hearts of a nation. First son Zaid Ali has raised an extraordinary $10 million for animal welfare through his annual lemonade sale, with proceeds benefiting 10 shelters and rescue organizations across the country. The event, held on the lawns of State House, drew hundreds of supporters for a lively, family-friendly afternoon, featuring activities for children and a strong message of compassion. During the presentation ceremony, Zaid said, "I want to help the animals because I love them." First Lady Arya Ali emphasized that the initiative goes beyond fundraising, aiming to instill values of kindness and responsibility while supporting efforts to reduce the number of stray animals. President Dr. Mohamed Irfan, cabinet members, and visiting officials were also in attendance. In a gesture of inclusivity, up to 200 children from orphanages were invited to participate in the day's activities, reinforcing the State House openness. Each of the 10 beneficiary organizations received $1 million, supporting continued efforts in animal rescue and care nationwide. Government officials, including Tourism Minister Susan Rodriguez and Minister Vanessa Ben, lauded the initiative as both heartwarming and inspiring, highlighting the first family's commitment to compassion and national development. Don't go away after the break. Venezuela protests. Workers demand better wages and real economic change. And panic buying in China's plastic city. War on Iran sends price of plastic soaring.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for do a surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lenders, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Welcome back. Now we take a look at what's happening in the region and around the world.
Good evening, I'm Dominic Gittins. Tonight, Kenya pushes back against the UN over Haiti allegations. Venezuela erupts in protests over wages and living conditions. Iran's grip on a key oil route disrupts global shipping, sending ripple effects from Panama to China, where plastic prices are surging. We begin in Haiti. Kenya has formally protested to the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres over a report alleging sexual abuse by Kenyan personnel in Haiti. Foreign Minister Musalia Mudavadi said investigations found no evidence of wrongdoing and were shared with authorities. He reaffirmed Kenya's commitment to accountability and continued support for Haiti as international efforts to stabilize the country amid rising gang violence continue. Workers across Venezuela are staging large-scale demonstrations, demanding higher wages and improved working conditions. The protest comes only months after the removal of Nicolas Maduro, with interim President Delcy Rodriguez facing growing pressure to deliver the economic relief many hoped for. Al Jazeera's Nora Soto reports.
From teachers to public employees, protests are spreading across Caracas. Their message is simple: they cannot live on what they earn. Venezuela's official minimum wage remains at 130 bolivars. That's only 28 cents a month. Even with bonuses, income often reaches around $100 to $150 monthly. Years of inflation have wiped out purchasing power. Many rely on side jobs, remittances, or informal work to survive. And now frustration is turning into action. Protesters are demanding wage increases and real economic change. On Thursday, hundreds of protesters marched towards the presidential palace. "Let's go to Miraflores," they shouted, pushing long-standing demands for higher pay. Riot police blocked their path and fired pepper and tear gas as they moved through central Caracas.
I am retired. We're asking for wages. We have gone almost 4 years without receiving a single cent, and now they come and spray us with pepper gas. How is that possible? Are there first and second class Venezuelans here?
Facing pressure, President Delcy Rodriguez announced a wage increase starting May 1st. She called it responsible, saying it will avoid fueling inflation. Her government has also launched dialogue initiative with workers and the private sector. At the same time, pro-government groups have called for their own marches, in what some see as an attempt to counter the protest. The demonstrations reflect growing anger, but also a shift. After years of repression, more Venezuelans are returning to the streets.
What we are demanding is what is established in the Constitution of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela and in the Organic Labor Law, which says we must have a living and sufficient wage. But you can see how they create barriers. Is President Delcy afraid? Delcy, you should not be there because you are a usurper responsible for the collapse of our country.
Officials admit a deeper problem. There are now more pensioners than workers. That raises concerns about the sustainability of the system. Meanwhile, all sectors of the society, including students, are demanding improvements in their quality of life.
Today we are fighting for labor rights within our spaces. We demand dignified salaries for our professors and workers, and we are demanding proper scholarships for university students, scholarships that meet everyone's needs equally.
Venezuelan police fired tear gas against protesters as they were trying to reach the presidential palace. Amid the crackdown, they keep pushing forward, shouting, "We can," insisting on the right to protest. The message this time is clear. We don't want more announcements. We want real change. Nora Soto, Al Jazeera, Caracas.
The shock of global shipping because of the Iran war is being felt far from the Gulf. Iran has restricted the passage of tankers and vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz. But on the other side of the world, in Panama, Canal authorities say traffic is rising above expectation. Al Jazeera's Alessandro Rampietti reports.
At the Panama Canal, the impact of a distant conflict might not be obvious to the hundreds of tourists who visit this engineering marvel. But behind the scenes, traffic through the canal is hedging higher. Authorities say disruptions at the Strait of Hormuz and higher fuel costs are pushing more ships this way, especially liquefied natural gas tankers or LNGs loading in the United States and heading to Asia.
But now that the prices in Asia are increasing because of the lack of supply, prices are very attractive for the U.S. to send there. And I think the best route to send this gas, now that prices are good, is the Panama Canal.
Daily transits now range between 38 to 40 vessels, above the 34 the waterway authorities had forecast for this year. The canal was already seeking a rise in LNG traffic before the war, but now officials are preparing to offer up to 1 LNG transit slot per day, a sharp increase from just a few per month. The question now that a 2-week ceasefire has been announced is just how long this will last. Even with a ceasefire now in place, what matters the most to shipping companies is not just whether the conflict pauses, but that it stays that way. Until then, alternative routes like this one will remain in high demand. Canal Chief Ricaurte Vasquez says fuel costs remain central to that calculation.
It depends a lot on how deep the crisis is and how long it lasts, because the first blow will be the cost of energy, the cost of fuel and the cost of shipping. When costs increase, in general when the price of marine fuel rises, the Panama Canal becomes a more attractive route.
For now, Panama is benefiting from the uncertainty, but it's a reminder that global trade hinges on just a handful of narrow and vulnerable choke points. Alessandro Rampietti, Al Jazeera, Panama.
The US-Israeli war on Iran has sent the price of plastic soaring as much as 60% in one of its most important trading hubs, China's Plastic City. Al Jazeera's Alexandra Byers reports.
6,000 kilometers from Iran, the US-Israeli war sparked panic buying here, in the plastics capital of China.
After March 5, Zhang Mutuo was gridlocked for nearly a week. Traffic jams stretched about 10 to 15 kilometers. Every warehouse was packed to capacity.
This is Zhangmutou, Plastic City, the largest plastic hub in China, which is itself the largest producer, consumer, and exporter of plastic products in the world. And what happens here will likely be felt by consumers everywhere.
Since March, prices have been surging, up about 60%, and there is no sign of them stopping. Prices are still climbing, and they are going up every day.
More than 99% of plastic products are made from oil and gas. The war between the US, Israel, and Iran has created volatility in energy markets, with prices surging. Tehran's near-total blockade of the Strait of Hormuz has disrupted shipping from Gulf nations. 20% of energy exports transit the critical waterway. And China imports around half of its oil and gas from the Middle East.
Petrol and diesel prices have also risen, pushing up transport costs. So traders in plastic raw materials have had no choice but to raise their prices. And with the Middle East situation unlikely to ease in the next 1 or 2 months, panic has driven people to actively stock up.
Costs are surging across the plastics supply chain.
Our inventory has basically all been used up and shipped out. So now all of our raw materials are being bought at current market prices, which are very high. This will soon be passed on to downstream customers.
And with plastics found in almost every aspect of life, from clothing to electronics, construction, and medical equipment, consumers can expect prices on nearly everything to be affected for a while. Alexandra Byers, Al Jazeera.
Thanks, Dominique. This brings us to the end of our regional and global news coverage. Up next is the 3-day weather forecast. that's Safety Week 2 Headline News for this Friday evening. As we take our leave, we invite you to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. We will be off for the weekend, but you can tune in on Monday 7 p.m. for more news. Until then, please take care of yourselves and each other and do have a wonderful weekend.